ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So welcome back to Wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. We have taken few weeks of break because the devotees were away because of the holiday season, but now we are back. So let us start with chapter 5 of Wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. And I am hoping that the holiday period you have utilized for covering up any sessions that you had missed. All the videos, the links were posted from YouTube. So I hope at least if you had missed something, you have already covered up and watched those videos. So we are going to start chapter 5 from today. So we have covered till chapter 4. So today, chapter 5, which is called Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. So in Sanskrit, this chapter is called Karma Sannyasa Yoga. And this chapter, when we are going through it, you will notice that it is very, very similar to chapter 3. It starts with a similar question Arjuna asked at the beginning of chapter 3. And you can see that a very similar question Arjuna is again asking at the beginning of chapter 5. And the content is also explaining again about Nishkam Karma Yoga. This chapter has 29 verses, so it is one of the smaller chapters. It is not the smallest. The smallest is chapter 12 and chapter 15, both are having only 20 verses. But this one is one of the smaller ones, only 29. So we will cover this chapter in probably 2 or 3 sessions. So let us see what this chapter is going to teach us and what kind of practical knowledge Lord Shri Krishna is going to give us in this chapter. So verse number 1. Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. Verse 1. Arjuna Uvacha Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna Punaryogam Cha Shamsasi Yashreya Etayorekam Tanme Bruhi Sunishchitam. Yes, Sunil Prabhuji, please go.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Arjuna said, "O Krishna, first of all, you asked me to renounce work, and then again you recommend work with devotion. Now, will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial?" Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. So here, Arjuna is asking that first you are asking me to renounce the work, and then again you recommend work with devotion. So on one side, you are asking me to give up the work. So renouncing the work means giving up the work. And on the other side, you are saying that rise and fight. So you are asking me to do some work. So you are confusing me. I told you at the beginning of chapter 3, what question he asked? Jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardanam tat kim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi keshava. So he was asking similar question. Hey, um, do you want, like, why are you asking me to engage in this ghastly warfare? You're asking me to rise and fight. So earlier you were saying that give up this ghastly work. Durena Hamvaram Karma. In the second chapter, he had mentioned Lord Shri Krishna. So you're asking me to give up this Hamvaram Karma, which is ghastly work or sinful work. And at the same time, you're asking me to do the war where I have to kill so many people. So tell me for sure, what should I do? Should I actually work with intelligence, which is like Sthita Prajna? So Krishna had talked about Sthita Prajna in second chapter, towards the end of the second chapter. And just before that, he had talked about Durena Havaram Karma. And then at the end, again, he says that rise and fight. So he's saying that on one side, you are saying that use your higher intelligence, steady your mind, and use the knowledge, all of that. and then you are saying rise and fight. So he's comparing Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga. We generally do not understand that this knowledge, transcendental knowledge, or whatever Lord Shri Krishna is talking about, can be equated to Jnana Yoga. But Arjuna is much advanced, much higher consciousness. He knows the Vedic system. So he is thinking that whenever Krishna is talking about transcendental knowledge or knowledge, he's referring to Jnana Yoga. And whenever he's talking about karma, he is either talking about Karma Yoga or Karma Kanda or just karma, like that. And depending on karma sannyas or whatever he's talking about, there are multiple different meanings that he can derive from it. And we think that, hey, this is clear. Why Arjuna is confused? I am clear, but why Arjuna is Arjuna worse than me? That he's not understanding, I am understanding. It's not like that. It is because he knows more, and because of that, because we know less, we are just taking the meaning which Srila Prabhupada is giving, of course, which is the as it is meaning. But Arjuna can get confused because he's hearing the Sanskrit words, and each word can have multiple meanings, and depending on the context, the meaning can change. So he is taking a meaning which is suitable for him. He doesn't want to fight. At the beginning of chapter 1, he has already dropped his Gandiva, and she's saying that I'm not going to fight. And he's doing some selective listening. So whenever Krishna is talking about something, he's just trying to pick up the points that which point is suitable for my own position. And then he's asking these questions. Also, there are some confusing things happening. Now, why, after Krishna has answered this in chapter 3, why he has asked similar question in chapter 5? There is a reason for it. In the 4th chapter that we have just covered, transcendental knowledge, Lord Shri Krishna talked about inaction in action and action in inaction. In 4.16 to 4.18, he was talking about that concept. So Lord Shri Krishna talked about it, but Arjuna hasn't understood that part yet properly. So it is, of course, again, it is Krishna's arrangement that he's not understanding. And through him, he's trying to emphasize this karma yoga or nishkam karma yoga for all of us. So that is why Krishna hasn't removed that bewilderment from Arjuna yet. And that is why Arjuna is asking this question. Then at the end of chapter 4, 4.41, Lord Shri Krishna talk about yoga sannyasta karmanam. Now in yoga sannyasta karmanam, if you see the translation, one who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions. But if you look at the word to word, like the words itself, yoga, sannyasta, karmanam. So it can actually be taken in two ways. Karma sometimes mean the activity, and the karma sometimes mean the results of the activity. Here, Lord Shri Krishna is talking about like action in inaction. Sorry. In action. So you do action, but you will not get the result of it. So he's saying that yoga sannyasta karmana means you give up the fruits of your activities. But what Arjuna took it? I took it as yoga sannyasta karmana means giving up the karma itself, giving up the activity itself. So that is first problem or first point because of which he has confused. Second one, in the second part of that verse itself, Lord Shri Krishna says, Jnana Sanchinna Samshaya. So he's talking about the knowledge. And the entire chapter was talking about transcendental knowledge. And traditionally, this transcendental knowledge or jnana is equated to jnana yoga. And in that path of jnana yoga, traditionally they give up the activity. So they give up the action. That is why he's thinking that, oh, Lord Shri Krishna has talked about transcendental knowledge. So he is actually asking me to give up the activity. But in contrast, then the next verse, so Lord Shri Krishna says, armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand and fight. So again, on the previous verse, he talked about yoga sannyasta karmanam. So from Arjuna's perspective, Krishna is talking about giving up activity. And in next verse, Krishna says that you stand up and fight. He's saying, hey, I'm now getting confused again. Till now it was all okay, but now in the last two verses again you confuse me. You're saying give up the karma, so karma sannyas, and at the same time now you're saying that stand up and fight, that means karma yoga. So I'm again confused. So that is why he's saying, oh Krishna, first of all, you ask me to renounce work, and then again, you recommend work with devotion. Now, will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial? So, very similar question. And Lord Shri Krishna is going to explain about Nishkam Karma Yoga, but using like a different perspective. And at the same time, he will give us the higher knowledge of Nishkam Karma Yoga while explaining it. So till now, Lord Shri Krishna has talked a lot about karma or work or action. So let us look at what all he has talked about till now. And then you will realize that on the battlefield, in just these 3-4 chapters, Lord Shri Krishna has talked so much about work and how you should do the work. And it is obvious that in Arjuna's situation, he may get confused. So first of all, he talked about, okay, it may be too small. So Lord Shri Krishna talk about giving up the work prematurely. So if you give up the work prematurely, then we will become a pretender. The other place, Lord Shri Krishna talk about giving it up after purification. So once you are purified, that you have purified from passion and ignorance and you are in goodness, at that time, you can actually give up the work properly. Then he has said that even if you are purified at that time as well, you should do the work for setting a proper example in front of everyone. Then he talked about also about working for sense enjoyment. When he was talking in the second chapter about karma kanda, if you want enjoyment, you can still do the work by offering it to different devatas. So different sacrifices for devatas you can do, different pujas you can do, and then you can get the enjoyment, sense gratification out of it. Lord Shri Krishna has multiple places he has mentioned about work as duty and then giving up the results of your work. Then he has talked about prescribed duties, like Varna and different Varnas, different ashramas. In the 4th chapter, he talked about prescribed duties. Then he also mentioned that you should do our own prescribed duty and we shouldn't be doing others' prescribed duties. Even if we are good at doing others' work, we should still focus on our own work. He has talked about karma, vikarma, and akarma, like sinful activities, and akarma, which doesn't produce any results, and doing the work as an offering to Lord Shri Krishna. Then in the 4th chapter, he emphasized a lot about work done as sacrifice. And he gave various different examples that what kind of sacrifice a brahmachari is doing, what kind of sacrifices a grihastha is doing, a jnana yogi, what kind of sacrifice a bhakti yogi. Different sacrifices have been mentioned in the 4th chapter. Then work done in knowledge. So Lord Shri Krishna said that work which is done in knowledge is much better than work that you do in ignorance. Then he talked about inaction, that when you are doing action, but you do it in a way that you don't get any result, and that is why it is an inaction. But sometimes you do inaction, that you do not do any activity, but that gives you the sinful reaction. So that means it is equivalent to doing an action. So many things the Lord Shri Krishna has talked about in a very short period of time to Arjuna about work, that how the work should be done. So it is understandable that Arjuna is still confused because there are so many concepts Lord Shri Krishna has introduced to him in a short period of time. So let us see what Lord Shri Krishna responds to Arjuna now. Second verse, Shri Bhagavan Vacha Sanyasah Karma Yogascha Nishreyas Karavubhau Tayostu Karma Sanyasat Karma Yogo Vishishyate. Who wants to read the translation? Yes, Mantramalam Prabhuji, please go ahead.
Krishna Prabhuji. The personality of Godhead replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotion service is better than renunciation of work.
Yeah. So thank you, Prabhuji. So Lord Shri Krishna is now saying that from the perspective of outcome, if you look at the outcome, whether you are doing karma yoga, like Nishkam karma yoga, or Jnana yoga, from the perspective of the outcome, they are same. So he's saying if you do Nishkam karma yoga or Jnana yoga, they are equal if you're looking at the outcome of that. But if you look at the practicality of implementing Nishkam karma yoga in one's life or implementing Jnana yoga in one's life, then Nishkam karma yoga is far easier. It is safer for someone. It is more practical. So from the outcomes perspective, whether you do Nishkam karma yoga or Jnana yoga, you will get liberated. So outcome is same. In Jnana yoga also you get liberated. In Nishkam karma yoga as well, you get liberated. From material world, you go to the spiritual world. But if you look at the practical implementation perspective, Nishkam karma yoga is much easier for all of us. Why it is so? Because in Nishkam karma yoga, we are utilizing our senses. In Jnana yoga, you give up the activity itself. Now you just imagine in our day-to-day life as well, is it easy to sit idle? It is almost impossible. In this Kali Yuga, sitting idle is almost impossible. Even if you are thinking that you are sitting idle, immediately your hand goes in 2 seconds, hand goes towards your mobile phone, and you'll start looking at the messages, or you'll start going to the YouTube or watching some video, or you will think that, oh, instead of sitting idle, I'll just do some gardening, or I'll go and walk outside. So it is very difficult for us to sit idle or sit still without doing any activity, because we are controlled by mode of passion and mode of ignorance. Mode of passion will not let us sit idle. So it becomes very, very difficult to do Jnana yoga for ordinary living entities. Like for all of us, it is very, very difficult to do it. Those who reach the state of mode of goodness, for them it is possible to do Jnana yoga and then progress further from Jnana yoga. But most of us who are controlled by goodness, some goodness is there, some passion is there, some ignorance is there. For all of us, Nishkam Karma Yoga is much easier because we are able to utilize our senses, working senses, into Krishna's service somehow or the other. And then we are trying to give up the result, offer the result to the Supreme Lord. So it is much more practical to do as compared to Nishkam Karma Yoga. So this is the main difference. So from the perspective of outcome, it is same. From the perspective of practical implementation, Nishkam Karma Yoga is better. So let us look at it from a little bit deeper. So here, Lord Shri Krishna is comparing renunciation of work, like giving up work, which is karma sannyas, and renunciation in work, which is karma yoga. So let us see what is the difference between the two. So renunciation of work. So this is simple. If you do work and you will get result. Now where the renunciation is applied, that defines whether it is karma sannyas or karma yoga. Some people think that I am getting the result because I'm doing work. So if I give up the work itself, there will be no result. And because as long as result is there, I have to remain in this material world. So if I don't want to remain in the material world, then I don't want any result. And the result is coming from work. So I have to actually give up the work itself. Is that making sense? So some people think that if I want to actually go out of this material world, I have to clear the results from my life. And for that, because the results are coming from work, I have to stop work. So they think that I should renounce the work, and that is how I will get liberated. And this is called karma sannyas. And this is the process which is followed in Jnana Yoga. But as we just talked about, it is very, very difficult to sit idle or to give up the work. And we will somehow or the other get engaged in some other work and we will still get the results. So unless and until we go to mode of goodness, it is very difficult. Pamendra Guruji?
Guruji, when it's saying give up the work, so it's just the physical actions. Does it include the thoughts as well? For everything, like, because
Yeah, very good question. So thoughts, if you remember, we talked about when we were talking about what is the functionality of mind and what is the function of intelligence. So thinking, feeling, and willing, that comes from mind. So thoughts are part of thinking. But we also saw in the second chapter that dhyato vishayan pumsa sangasteshu pajayate. Sangat sanjayate kama, kamat krodho vijayate. So there we talked about whenever there is some thoughts are there, attachment will develop. Through attachment, then lust will come. And then through lust, we will want to do the activity. So if the thinking is there, and then if we are not yet purified, if the thoughts are still coming, then sooner or later that thought will convert into action. So thinking itself will not give you the result, good or bad result. But sooner or later, the thinking will turn into action and that will give you the result. So in the third chapter itself, this Lord Shri Krishna has answered this. He was talking about a pretender. He said that if we are not purified enough, and at that time, if you give up the work, then for other people, you may be showing off that you are so advanced and you have given up this work and you are now a sannyasi, or you are like very advanced that you are able to, you are in mode of goodness or whatever. But if you are not really purified, then what will happen? Your mind will still dwell on the activities of sense gratification. And then sooner or later, you will want to engage in those activities. You will want to engage in those activities. And then what will happen is, because you have already shown to world that you are such a advanced person, and you still want to do those activities, you will do those activities in a hidden way. And that means you are a hypocrite, that you are showing to the other people that you are such an advanced person, but you are still in a hidden way, you're trying to do those activities. So you're a pretender. You're pretending that you are advanced, but in a hidden way, you are just still trying to do sense gratification. So that will happen. So Lord Shri Krishna is saying, instead of becoming a pretender and showing off to the world that you are at a particular higher level than you are actually are, better to engage in Nishkam Karma Yoga. So how is that different from what we are talking about on this slide? Renunciation of work, which is karma sannyas. Now let's look at renunciation in work. Now there is a difference in renunciation of work and renunciation in work. What is the difference? Again, work and result. If you do the work, you will get result. Giving up work is difficult, but giving up result is little bit simpler than that. So renunciation in work means you keep on doing the work, but you give up the attachment to result. So you are detached with the result. It is not that when the result comes, you will give it up. Remember in second chapter, we have discussed all of this when we were talking about karmanye vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhur mate sangosva karmani. When we discuss that verse, we have discussed this, that it is not that you work for a whole month and then at the end of the month, when you get the salary, you say that I don't want it. That's not Nishkam Karma Yoga. Nishkam Karma Yoga means you give up the attachment to the result. So no matter what kind of result I'm going to get, I will still do my duty. So as a Kshatriya, Arjuna has to fight. It is possible that he may win or he may lose. When we are saying he may lose, that means he will also lose his life. But he cannot think like that, oh, I'm a Kshatriya, and if this particular opponent looks like very stronger, it is much stronger than me, and I may die. No, Kshatriya spirit means someone has asked you to fight, he will go and fight. He may win or he may lose. So it is his duty to fight, so he will fight. He's not worrying about the result. He's not attached to the result. Because if we are attached to the result, then you may give up the work itself. Just like Arjuna is trying to do now. He's attached to the people in front of him. So he's thinking that if I do my work, the result could be that I have to kill all these people in front of me. So because of that attachment that he is having, he is giving up his own work itself. So that is not Nishkam Karma Yoga. So Arjuna is trying to run away from his duty, just because the result may not be favorable for him. So this is what is Lord Shri Krishna is trying to teach Arjuna, that we have this intention or consciousness that we have to purify while doing our activity. And that consciousness is purified, then the ordinary work will become Nishkam Karma Yoga, if you offer the result to the Supreme Lord. Rajiv Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Sometimes, or rather many times, the reward itself motivates one to do the action, perform the action. How can one renunciate the reward and carry on performing the action regardless?
Yeah.
So I'm focusing on the how can this be done?
Yeah. Very good question, Rajiv Prabhuji. And in the beginning, that is what happens to all of us, that when we are looking at doing some activity, we are first looking at the result. That if, for example, everyone in the schools or colleges, they are studying quite hard. Why? Their goal is to learn something. Their goal is that they have seen that those who are getting higher marks or they get good degrees, they become engineers, doctors, or whatever, then it is possible that they will get better job. And when they get better job, they will get better money, and then their life will be better. So most of the people are not learning for the sake of learning. They are looking at the result, and then looking at that result or the goal, then they are thinking that, oh, because of this, I should do this better. And it is okay in the beginning, but there is a downside to it. That if we are not performing better and we are not advancing towards that goal, then someone may just give up that education itself, thinking that, oh, this is not going to work for me. But Lord Shri Krishna is saying that don't be attached to the result, end result. Don't worry about it. Just do it as a duty. And it will take a while for being detached to the result. And one other thing that I would want to mention on this, that anyone who's starting to work, Nishkam Karma Yoga doesn't mean that this person who's starting to work is careless in doing that activity because he's not worrying about the goal. He still wants to do his duty properly and perfectly, as best as he can. But at the same time, like whether you get the result that you are looking for or not, you will still go ahead and continue doing that work. So in Krishna consciousness, simple thing, our day-to-day japa. Now, many people like come and talk and say that, oh, Prabhuji, I'm doing this japa, but I'm not able to focus. And my meditation while I'm doing, my mind is going here and there. So I'm doing now for 6 months or I'm doing it for 1 year, but my mind is still wandering. So that means the meditation is not perfecting. So if we are attached to have our mind focused on the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and if that is not happening, then someone may decide that I want to give it up because my meditation is not working out. So why should I do? So there, it is important that we keep doing it dutifully, and over a period of time, by doing that sufficient practice, over a period of time, we will be able to focus and hear the mantra properly, and our meditation will be perfect. So when we are actually starting the meditation, we say that, yeah, I want to hear the mantra. So we know the goal, what is the perfected stage. But at the same time, we are not attached, saying, in 6 months, if it doesn't happen, I'm going to give it up. So that is the difference. Is that making sense, Raju Prabhuji? That having a goal is good, but being attached to the goal can drive you to not to do the activity as well. It can drive you to do the activity, but also it can repel you from that activity if you are not achieving the goal in the time frame that you want. And that may not be a good thing.
Yes, in some ways. I mean, analogy could be, playing soccer. If I keep my eye on the trophy, I might not score. I'll have to keep my eye on the goal and not the trophy. And depending on how many goals we, get scored, you eventually get the trophy. But, the other way could be, um, a whole lot of activities in life are driven by our sense pleasures itself. Otherwise, why would we, the world that we've created, why would we create it this way?
Yeah. And that is what Lord Shri Krishna is saying, that we have to go away from that sense enjoyment activities.
Okay.
Because as long as you keep enjoying those senses, you will remain in this material world.
Right.
So
So,
if our goal in the beginning, so that is why Bhagavad Gita gives processes for everyone. If someone wants to actually enjoy senses, they are enjoying senses currently, and they want to enjoy more. So Bhagavad Gita talks about karma kanda as well, that you can actually do more sacrifices, and you can do more pujas, yagyas, and whatever, and then you can please the devatas. And when they are pleased, you will get more sense enjoyment in this life as well as in the next one. So if that is our goal, then there is a process given in Bhagavad Gita and the scriptures to achieve those goals as well. But if our goal, if you want to actually set a goal higher, that I don't want to remain in this material world, I want to actually go to the spiritual world, then we need to actually purify ourselves. And what is that purification? Purification is that we are not this body, understanding that I am not this body and I am a spirit soul. So if I'm not this body, then why should I actually do activities which are pleasing to the body only? What kind of activities I can do to please the soul and the Supreme Lord? So when our consciousness shifts from our own sense enjoyment, like when I'm saying own sense enjoyment is from body's pleasure to soul's pleasure, then that transformation will come where we are thinking about, instead of doing activities for my sense enjoyment, I will do the activities for Krishna's pleasure. So that's a shift of consciousness that is required. And if we are at a different platform, that's fine. Scriptures give us the activities to progress from where we are, and then slowly we can progress to further. And at a particular point in time in our life, we may come to the consciousness that now I have had enough of sense enjoyment. I'm still in this material world and I'm still suffering. So I want to go to the spiritual world, which is free of suffering, which is Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha means free of anxiety. So I want to go to the spiritual world. And it's a journey. It will take some time to come to that level. So that's why we have to keep chanting, keep doing devotional service, and slowly that will purify us, and that will purify our desires as well. Is that okay?
Ji, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. All right, let's move ahead. So here we talked about renunciation in work. And this is, renunciation in work, which means you do work, but you can give up the result or attachment to the result. So renouncing the attachment to the result, that is Nishkam Karma Yoga. Are you seeing the difference? Instead of giving up the work, you are giving up the attachment to the result. And that is Nishkam Karma Yoga. Okay. Aparna Mataji, do you have a question or a comment?
Yes, Prabhuji, I have a question, if I may.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, this concept of Nishkama karma is like a, it's like a sort of very fascinating concept. But in work setting, Prabhuji, can you give us a simple example where I can relate that, oh, this is the way we do our work. By work, I mean our professional work. That how do we apply that in our day-to-day life, Prabhuji? So I just need a simple example so that I can take that as an standard and I can apply that and I can extrapolate it in different situation. If my question makes sense, Prabhuji.
Yeah, I understood. So, for example, if there is a project manager in the office, and the project manager has a goal that there are different projects which are happening. I'm taking this software example, that there are some various different projects are happening, and a project manager's role is to make sure that the projects get delivered successfully within the budget that is there and the scope that is given and the quality that is required. So all of these parameters are there, and within those parameters, he has to deliver the project successfully. And there are so many things which can go wrong when the project is going on. Now, the challenge is when the things are going wrong. Okay, before even coming to the challenges. So every project manager has a goal that he wants to actually deliver the project successfully within the budget, to the scope, and to the given quality. He's not starting the project itself thinking that, I will do a bad job. I will blow up the budget. I will give poor quality project, and it doesn't matter when I deliver it. They have asked me for doing it in 6 months, but I will do it in 6 years. No one starts like that. Everyone is thinking that I want to do as best as I can. So the goal is there. But the difference between an attached project manager and a detached project manager is little bit like we can see. Someone who is attached, he's just thinking about, this is the time frame, this is the cost, this is everything that of those parameters, and he's trying to do it, and something is going wrong. Some risks are coming, the risks are materializing, the issues are coming up, all of that is happening, and then he's getting stressed up. If you get stressed out because you're attached to that result, then your ability to take the right decision also reduces, and you make further wrong decisions, which makes your project to even go even in worse direction than it would have been if you were calm. But if the person who is little bit not bit detached from the result, what he will thinking, oh, this problem is coming. I'm doing my best in this situation, but these problems are coming. So what can I do now? So he can then go and talk to various stakeholders and make sure that whatever adjustments he can do, reduce the scope, ask for extra budget or whatever, some thinking, if he does properly without getting stressed out, he can take better decisions. So in our day-to-day life as well, depending on whether we are attached very much to the result or we are detached from it, we will still do our activity perfectly. A simple example, and I've heard it from one of the lectures. So many times the devotees go for book distribution. Now, sometimes when you try to distribute the books, like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, or Krishna book, or whatever you're trying to distribute, and people may not take it. So because the result, if someone who's very attached to the result, he will say that, oh, I have tried distributing the books, but it is not getting distributed, so I'll give it up. It is not for me. But someone else may think that, oh, my duty is to actually distribute. Srila Prabhupada has given this books, and someone today they have not taken, but tomorrow someone will take. So he will keep doing the activity if he is detached from the result. He wants to distribute the books, but even if the books are not distributed, he will keep doing that activity. Is that okay?
It does make perfect sense. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, because now it is very clear. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Okay, fine. So just to summarize, for this karma yoga versus karma sannyas. So two things, both will give us the same result, but Karma Yoga is easier for practically implementing it in our life. So what we should do practically, giving the results of action is easier than giving up the actions itself. So Nishkam Karma Yoga is much easier to implement than implementing Jnana Yoga. So you have to start practicing Nishkam Karma Yoga. So here, Lord Shri Krishna is still limiting his explanation to Nishkam Karma Yoga, but it can be extended to Bhakti Yoga. So later on in the second section, Lord Shri Krishna will emphasize on Bhakti Yoga instead of Nishkam Karma Yoga. So so Karma Yoga is giving us the same result, but it is easier to implement. Now let's go further. Or we haven't progressed much. We are just on the second verse itself. So let's try to cover for a few more verses. So we'll read verse number 3 to 5 together now, and then we will try to explain them. 3. Neyasa nitya sannyasi yona dveshti na kankshati nirdvandvo hi mahabaho sukham bandhat pramuchyate. Okay, Raghavendra Prabhuji or Mataji, then Pamendra Prabhuji, and then Vidushi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
One who neither hates nor desires the fruit of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated. O mighty armed Arjuna.
Thank you, Mataji. Verse number 4. Sankhya yoga pruthag balah pravadanti na panditaha ekam apyasthita samyag ubhayor vindate phalam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
Only the ignorant speak of devotional service, karma yoga, as being different from the analytical study of the material world, sannyasa. Those who are actually learned say that Those who are actually learned say that he who applied himself well to one of these paths achieved the result of both.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Verse number 5. Yat sankhya prapyate sthanam tadyogairapi gamyate ekam sankhyam cha yogam cha yapashyati sapashyati.
One who knows that the position reached by means of analytical study can also be attained by devotional service, and who therefore sees analytical study and devotional service to be on the same level, sees things as they are.
Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. So here in these 3 verses, Lord Shri Krishna is elaborating what he has said in verse number 2. And we have already discussed that part, how the results are similar, but it is more practical, more easier to do. So in Nishkam Karma Yoga. So let us just revise that quickly for these 3 verses that we have seen. So between these 3 verses, 5.3 is talking about who is a true sannyasi. So it is mentioned, Neya sa nitya sannyasi yona dveshtina kankshati. So neither hates nor desire fruits and is free from all dualities. So you now think about the examples that we talked about, the book distribution or the project manager or anyone who's trying to not be attached to the result, then he is able to do his duty perfectly. But those who are attached to the results, then they waver. Sometimes if it is favorable situation, they would want to do the duty. But if it is unfavorable, they will want to give up the duty or activity. So that person cannot be a true sannyasi. Also, it is mentioned that they are not attached to the fruits. That means they are still doing the activity. So it is not that Lord Shri Krishna is saying that true sannyasi is the one who's giving up the activity itself. What he is saying, true sannyasi is the one who's giving up the attachment to the fruits. He still keeps on doing his duty, but he gives up the attachment to the fruits. So sannyasi is actually meant for achieving liberation. But the liberation can be achieved in multiple ways. You can give up the activity or you can give the attachment to the fruit of the activities. So as long as you are doing one of those, and because it is more practical to do the second one, So Lord Shri Krishna is recommending that we do that. And anyone who is actually in our grihastha life as well, or a student life, or in any particular phase of our life, you can still be a true sannyasi. Sannyasi doesn't mean that you are actually putting a saffron cloth, you have given up everything and you are going and staying in Himalaya or anything like that. A person who's a brahmachari or who's in grihastha life or in a vanaprastha life, they can also become true sannyasi. How? By neither hating nor desiring the fruits and becoming free from dualities. So once we actually give up this attachment to the fruits of activity, we still become true sannyasi. And then in verse number 4 and 5, it's quite interesting concept that we have already seen now, and we have talked about it, that Lord Shri Krishna has mentioned, that those who are actually learned, they say that one who applies himself well to one of these paths achieve the results of both. That means we can actually get liberation. We go to the spiritual world. Of course, when we go to the spiritual world, there are difference in the levels that we achieve at the spiritual in the spiritual realm as well. But if we'll just look at liberation, because most of the general people they talk about moksha. So moksha is possible in both ways, karma sannyas as well as karma yoga. In both cases, liberation is possible. So let us see this picture and that will make it clear. So at the bottom, you can see this material level of reality. Now in material level of reality as well, there are multiple levels. Someone can be in mode of ignorance, like this bottom part is in, so you can see here mode of ignorance. So in the material level as well, you can be in mode of ignorance or in mode of goodness, or maybe somewhere in between mode of passion, whatever. In the spiritual level of reality as well, there are different levels of realization. You can get the realization of Brahman, you can get the realization of Paramatma, which is in between, or you can get the highest level of realization, which is Bhagavan. If you are looking at just going from material level to the spiritual level, you can see Jnana Yoga also takes you there, Bhakti Yoga also takes you there. But if you look at little bit detailed, like a little bit deeper, then you can see Jnana Yoga can only take you from mode of goodness to Brahman. Though it is taking you from material level to spiritual level, only if you have reached to a certain purification you have already achieved, then you will be able to practice Jnana Yoga. You will be able to give up the activity itself. So you need to be in mode of goodness. If you are in mode of passion and ignorance, or even some traces of passion and ignorance are remaining while you're doing Jnana Yoga, you will become a pretender. But if you look at Bhakti Yoga, whether you are at ignorance, passion, or goodness, it can take you from the lowest level to the highest realization of Bhagavan. So this is the difference. Both Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga will take you from material world to the spiritual world. But Bhakti Yoga is the only one which has the potency to take you from the lowest level of material reality to the highest level of spiritual reality. So from mode of ignorance, it can take you to Bhagavan level. So this picture I have taken from Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji's book. It's a very beautiful book. If you have bought the book when he was here, but if you haven't read it, you should read it. This book is called Bhagavad Gita Insights. So very wonderful book. So he has explained this very nicely. So we have discussed 5.3 to 5.5. So let us go ahead. What is the time? Okay, we still have time. Good. Verse number 6. Sannyaasastu mahabaho dukkham aptuma yogataha yoga yukto munir brahma nachirena digacchati. Who wants to read? Okay. Shanti Mataji. And then Vikas Prabhu Gunjan Mataji.
One who knows that the position is reached by means of analytical study can also be attained by devotional service.
They have done that
and
one. The next one.
Sorry. Merely renouncing all activities, yet not engaging in the devotional service of the Lord, cannot make one happy. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you, Maharaj. So it is just summarized. Lord Shri Krishna has summarized that whatever he has talked till in the last 3-4 verses. He's saying merely renouncing all activities, but not engaging in devotional service. So if you give up all the activities, but if you do not engage in devotional service, you will not be happy. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. So again, he's saying that just giving up activity, but not engaging in spiritual activities, you will just become a pretender, which he has mentioned in 3rd chapter. But if you want to progress, then instead of giving up activity, do the activities in right consciousness, and it is more practical path, and that way you can make progress. Okay, so let us go to the next verse.
One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul.
We haven't read the verse yet, so hold on. So verse number 7. Yoga yukto vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriyaha sarvabhutatma bhutatma purvannapi na lipyate. Yes, please go ahead, bro.
One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul, and who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So here, now Lord Shri Krishna is talking about the consciousness of this Nishkam Karma Yogi. What kind of consciousness he has, and with what consciousness he is working. So first point mentioned is Vishuddhatma. The soul is having a purified intelligence. Then Vijitatma, one who is self-controlled. Then Jitendriya is mentioned, one who has conquered his senses. And then it is mentioned that he sees all living entities as spirit souls, part and parcels of the Supreme and dear to all. He is dear to all. Now, these are quite very lofty ideals that we have. Vishuddhatma, Vejitatma, Jitendriya, and sees all living entities as spirit souls. And he is dear to everyone as well. And we may think that, oh, even Nishkam Karma Yoga is so difficult. Like, I'm not Vishuddhatma. I don't have a purified intelligence. I'm not even sense-controlled, self-controlled. And senses have conquered me instead of I have conquered my senses. So how do I do all of that? So this is the higher level of consciousness that has been mentioned. And just by practicing, we can reach that. Just like for Bhakti Yoga, what we were talking about, when we start chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, even though we want to make sure that we are focused on the mantra, in the beginning it may not be possible. But that doesn't mean we give up the activity itself. We keep chanting, and over a period of time, if we are sincere and we are trying to do our best to focus and hear the mantra, a time will come that we will be able to concentrate and meditate on that mantra properly. Similarly, we want to become Vishuddhatma, Vijitatma, Jitendriya, and all of that. And in the beginning, we may not be there, but that doesn't mean we do not start. We should start from where we are. And over a period of time, by practicing Nishkam Karma Yoga, you will develop this consciousness. This is the goal that we have. We have to become Vishuddhatma, Vijitatma, Jitendriya, and everything. Amindra Prabhuji, you are raising your hand for asking a question or for reading?
Reading, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Sorry, Prabhuji.
All right. So
I'll
next
lower it
one,
now.
yeah, next one we will read. We'll go to the next verse. 8 and 9 are together. नैव किञ्चित् करोमीति युक्तो मन्येत तत्त्ववित् पश्यन् शृण्वन् स्पृशन् जिघ्नन् अश्नन् गच्छन् श्वपन् श्वसन् प्रलपन् विसृजन् गृह्णन् उन्मिषन् निमिषन्नपि इन्द्रियार्थेषु वर्तन्त इति धारयन्. Was there anyone waiting for reading, or just Pamindra Prabhuji third time? Okay, go ahead, Prabhuji. You are very eager.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. A person in the divine conscious, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping, and breathing, always known knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evocating, receiving, or opening or closing his eyes, he is always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them.
So he's an aloof person. So two more points are mentioned about the consciousness of a Nishkam Karma Yogi here. So those are, this person knows that material activities are interactions of senses and sense objects. And he remains aloof from all of that. Now, what does it mean? It is simple. In the second chapter itself, Lord Shri Krishna has talked about, I am not this body, I am spirit soul. So this person who is acting in Nishkam Karma Yoga, he's understanding that I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul. So he's working, he's doing his activities in this consciousness that all these senses are working, but I am actually not these senses. I'm the spirit soul. This body is just an instrument that I have, and I'm using this for doing the activities. So he's aloof from this body. He is aloof from the pains and pleasure of these bodies. That is why he's able to do his duty properly. So in the second and third chapter, when we were going through that section of Nishkam Karma Yoga, Srila Prabhupada in the purport gave these examples. He mentioned that even if it is a summer season and you have to actually, it is already hot and you want to do cooking. So you have to go to a burner, and then you still have to actually cook. So it becomes even more hot, and it becomes sometimes unbearable, but you still have to do it. It is a pain for you, but you're still doing as a duty because you want to make sure that everyone in the family is being fed properly. So that duty you will still do, even if there is some pain is involved. So this is only possible if you can actually see at some higher goal. So if you only look at the body and the pains and pleasures of the body, then you will just do sense enjoyment. And anything that is giving pleasure, you want to do more. Anything that is giving pain, you want to avoid. But if you want to progress spiritually, you have to actually rise above this pain and pleasures of the body. And you become a little bit aloof from that. And that is why this equanimity was talked about in the second chapter, third chapter, fourth chapter, and again in the fifth chapter. So consciousness of the Nishkam Karma Yogi is that he's not worried, or he's not affected by the dualities of this world. Okay. Is there a question, Nimi Mataji? You want to read the translation? Okay. So we'll do the next one and then we will stop possibly. Yeah, 2 more minutes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, just a small question.
Yes.
Prabhuji, when it says I'm not doing it, by that means Lord Shri Krishna is saying that being like a spirit soul, I'm not doing it. It's the material body that's doing it.
Yeah, it's a good question. And Lord Shri Krishna is going to talk a little bit more about it in this chapter itself. Who's the doer? So let's park that. Probably in the next session, we will cover it. So this is a very good question, that who's doing the activity? So that we will see a little later in this chapter. Lord Shri Krishna is going to elaborate that. But let's look at this last verse, 10th verse, and then we'll stop. ब्रह्मण्याध्याय कर्माणि संगम त्यक्ता करोति यः लिप्यते न स पापेन padmapatram ivambhasa. A very good analogy is given by Lord Shri Krishna. Yes, please read, Mataji.
One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action, as a lotus leaf is untouched by water. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. So very good example which is given. That just the lotus leaf we can see it is on the water, and sometimes the water droplets are also on it, but those water droplets are not touching the leaf. So even though it is within the water, like from the bottom as well water, top as well water, but it remains dry. So with that analogy, Lord Shri Krishna is explaining to us that One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action. So we keep doing activity. We are surrounded by activities. We are doing various different activities. But two things which are mentioned. If we do like that, then we will be unattached. Like the results will not touch us. What are those two things? First, one who performs his duty without attachment. So we should not be attached to the results of the activity. And the second, surrender the result unto the Supreme Lord. If we do like this, then we will be like that Padma Patram Ivambasa. That just like the lotus leaf is untouched by water, we will also be untouched by the results of the activity. And we can look at it from a simple example. Making puris. So if if someone wants to actually cook some puri and some aloo sabji, some potato sabji, someone wants to cook. Now, whenever someone is starting the work, they are always going to think that I want to do it perfectly. I want to make nice puffed up puris and very tasty aloo sabji. And everyone wants to do the best. But what is the consciousness with which one is cooking that can give the different result? So someone like this in this picture, the first person is cooking for his own enjoyment, his or her own enjoyment. What is the result? He will get the karma. Because he or she is attached, and they will get the result. And it is called karma. It is not yoga or anything. Someone is not attached to eating the puri. But if the nice puri comes, like a puffed up nice puri comes, then he says that I am the best. I did it. I always do the perfect puris. No one can do puris like me. So here, someone is very proud of their own skills. It's again karma. You want the praise that is coming out of it. So we are attached to it. It's karma, and we'll still get the result. You're not eating the puris. You have just said that I have done it, and I'm the best, and no one does it better than me. You still got the result of that. Someone tried to do the puri, but it became papad. It is not puffed up at all. So someone gets dejected. Oh, I wanted to do the best puri in the world, but they became the worst puri in the world. No, I can't do it any further. I'm giving it up. I will not make puri in my life at all now. Again, it's kind of attachment. It is aversion because you're attached to the result. You have created aversion for it. You still get the result. But this person who has cooked and offered to the Lord, then it becomes karma yoga, or depending on your consciousness, it is bhakti yoga. And in that case, you are not attached, you are detached. And then you will be free from the result. So this is what Lord Shri Krishna is talking about in this verse. Padma Patram Ivambasa. We can keep doing the activity. So all these four people are doing the same action, but have different consciousness. Depending on the consciousness, the result are different. In the first three cases, they are still getting the result of the activity. Fourth case, action is same. They are still made the puris. Whether it became papad or nice popped up puri doesn't matter. They have made the puris, and they have offered it to the Lord, and then they are accepting that as a remnant. So they will not be getting the reaction of the work, and they will be, depending on their consciousness, it will be Nishkam Karma Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, and they will make progress in their Krishna consciousness. So that is the main summary. We'll stop here. Anyone wants to summarize what we have covered today, or have some comments, or you have liked a particular point which you can implement in your life, you want to mention, give some comments. Yes, Viri Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I want to highlight 2 points, which is
Yes,
like
please
my
go.
realization from today's session. So first one is Bhakti Yoga is easier than Jnana Yoga, as renouncing results is easier than renouncing the work itself.
Correct.
And second point is Jnana Yoga can lift you up from mode of goodness only and up to the Brahman, whereas Bhakti Yoga can lift you from mode of ignorance up to the level of Bhagwan, which is the highest spiritual realization.
Yeah,
Hare
perfect.
Krishna.
Very nice. Excellent. Any other reflections anyone has? Nimi Mataji, your hand is still up. You want to share some reflections?
Oh, I'm sorry, Prabhuji, but I can still share it.
Yeah,
Sorry,
please go
I
ahead.
forget.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Again, I think the two key messages is which I took for my personal thing is like you can't stop doing the work, right? Again, a good question. If you still think, right, and that will turn into actions, and then you'll do the work. So you're basically a faker, right? So that is the one thing. And second thing is, it's very important, the renunciation in work or this renunciation of work. I think that is very important because I have seen a lot of examples, right? I was just thinking, I had a very close friend, medical, and he didn't, got result. I mean, didn't admission in PMT, and he did suicide, right? So I think that negative effect, can also affect if you attach to the work, right? And that's what our
Yes.
parents and we try to see. So I think it's very important not to attach or positive or negative way. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, that is like a very relevant example that some people who are so attached to the result. And Gauranga Prabhuji was in one of the lectures, he was mentioning that Gauranga Prabhuji is from IIT, and he was mentioning this example that someone who got the second rank in IIT in an exam, and he attempted suicide because he was expecting that he will be the topper. So just few marks lower than the topper, and because he was so attached to be the topper, just second rank he was not able to tolerate, and he attempted suicide. But he said that luckily it did not work out for him, so he was still alive, which is good. But this is the situation. If you are too attached to the result, and then if you do not get it, we are very dejected. Just like that Puri versus Papad example as well that we talked about. Any other comments? Any other reflections or questions or comments that you have? Okay, Sunil Prabhuji, and then Aparna Mataji. Sunil Prabhuji, you are on mute.
Sorry, Prabhuji. Yeah. True sannyasi neither hates nor desires fruits and is free from all dualities.
Yeah.
And
Very good.
another point, one who performs his duty without attachment, and the second, surrendering the results onto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action as the lotus leaf is untouched by the
Untouched
water.
by water.
Just
Yeah,
the
good.
last one.
Excellent. Yeah, Aparna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Of course, all the devotees have covered the value, the pearls of this session, which is amazing. To me, Prabhuji, the most resonating thing was just the last example which you showed us, Puri versus Papad. It is a very simplistic example, but then it just gives us that how we operate in different consciousness level while doing the same activity. So for me, this is a take-home thing for tonight, Prabhuji. Very well explained in a very simplistic way. So that is really, striking out for me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's good that you have liked it and you have understood that point. Yes,
Yes,
Raghavendra Prabhuji
Prabhuji.
or Anuradha Priya Mataji. No, Anupriya Radha Mataji.
That's correct. Hare Krishna Prabhu. So one takeaway message, I really like that visual you put in, the material level of reality and the spiritual level of reality, where Bhakti Yoga is the only one, it can take you from even the bottom of the pyramid, which is the ignorance, to the highest, to the Bhagavan, compared to Jnana Yoga. So that was very powerful takeaway message I took.
Yeah, it is a very important message to understand. When Lord Shri Krishna is talking about the result is same, it is same from a perspective that we are going from the material world to spiritual world. But if you look at little bit more details, then there are still slight differences in the result that we get and from where we have to start. So yeah, very good point. Nice. Anyone else has any other reflections?
I can say, Prabhuji.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, just another thing is, I think, again, as you're saying, it's very important, where you give an example of a project manager, right? That one is our result, right? And then there is a higher purpose, right? So whenever as a project manager, you start with why, right? There's a why, what need to be achieved. So I think, again, understanding that higher purpose, right? That can be very difficult. I totally agree with you, renouncing the work is harder. then the renouncing the result is easier than renouncing the work. But exactly as you said, right? If you're not attached to result, still you need that higher purpose, right? So keen to know sometime, how you get to know what is that higher purpose.
Oh, so how do you know what is the higher purpose?
Purpose, yeah. Is the higher purpose is like the example of Puri? Is that everything need to be offered to God? Whether it's new shoes, new dress, or is it beyond that? What is the higher purpose means?
Yeah, so the higher purpose is, these are relative things. It is a bit difficult to suddenly get a higher purpose. Like if you keep doing the activities that you have always been doing without seeking to gain higher knowledge, it is difficult to get higher purpose. So, for example, when you are studying in schools or colleges, so depending on what kind of goals that or what kind of other people that we actually are looking up to, depending on that, we also decide that I want to actually become an engineer, or I want to get the bachelor's degree, or I want to become I want to get the master's degree, or I want to have PhD. Someone who hasn't seen the higher like that person in front of them who is having higher goal, they will not even aspire for that. So association of devotees will give us the higher goals. So depending on which kind of people we are associating with, that kind of desires we are going to develop in us. If we always keep amongst the materialistic people, it is never possible that we will develop higher goals. Our goals will remain materialistic, and in there we will try to actually achieve something higher. From the perspective that if you have one house, you will want to buy 2 or 3 or 5 houses. If you're a millionaire, you want to become a billionaire. So those material goals itself will remain will change, but you will remain in the materialistic goals only. The only way to change the desires that we have is to actually change the association. Only that is why it is mentioned that even like a moment's association with devotee can change our life, because we may get inspired in that moment that, oh, this devotee who I just talked for few seconds, and then I felt that, oh, he was more peaceful, he was more happy, and he was a different person as compared to the general people that I see in my day-to-day life. What is it that he is doing? What kind of things that he's doing that is making this person a little bit different? And this curiosity, athato brahma jigyasa, that jigyasa that starts, then that is the beginning of our spiritual life. So some association that we have to have, like a different association we have to have, only then we will change our desires from material to spiritual. And in the beginning, they may just change from 100% material desires to 99% material desires and only 1% of spiritual desire. And over a period of time, if we associate more, it will become 2%, 3% like that. It will keep on increasing. And then our goals will also change accordingly, right? For example, just my situation, like when I started many years ago, 17, 18 years ago, when I came into Krishna consciousness, I looked at and I thought that, oh, maybe all these other people, it is possible for them to chant 16 rounds, but I'm so busy. Whole of my life, I will just chant 1 round. Now I have liked this chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. I'll just chant 1 round. That's it. But slowly, by associating more, I developed a desire to chant more. And when I developed the desire to chant more, automatically Krishna gave me the time. Automatically my material desires reduced, and I got more and more time available. So it was possible for me to chant more. So then it became possible to read more, then share more, then do, instead of 1 program, do 2, then to do multiple like that. So that is how the desires keep changing. As we associate with more and more advanced devotees, our desires also change, and we want to follow their examples. So this is the only way of changing our goals and desires. Okay, I think we will stop here at this point. If there are some more questions or comments, I'm sure we will get more time next week. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna.